Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. And thank you to all of the people who support the creation and production of this show and help bring it to you every single day with their support at patreon.com/SW7x7, including Amber, who just became a patron over the weekend. Amber, thank you so much for this vote of confidence in helping to support me and the show. So the news of Andor Season 1 and Obi-Wan Kenobi coming to physical media, that's awesome, and it follows the release of Season 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian on physical media in December of last year, but apparently the seeds for this have been in development for as much as a year or more. So basically, it starts with Bob Iger coming back to the helm of Disney as CEO. There were comments that he made at one of those Morgan Stanley Technology Summit types things. So when you go to the Disney Investor Relations page, they have the listings of the shareholder days and the earnings reports, and then these occasional other things where somebody major from Disney is speaking at some big old conference or something like that. Anyway, one of the things that Iger said at this technology thing in, I believe it was March of last year, is that he realized the business had lost a lot of money or left a lot of money on the table because they had stayed away from a lot of physical media releases. And the reason why they'd done it was, surprise, surprise, to try to drive demand for Disney Plus. They were just putting all of their chips on the table for that, trying to make it succeed as best they possibly could. And they weren't necessarily the only ones following this strategy, but DVD sales were still topping billions of dollars every year. So yeah, definitely, Disney is a business and it's capitalism and it's about shareholder value. So they gotta put money in those shareholder pockets. So yeah, it was going to be time eventually for them to reconsider the physical media situation. The announcement late last year that The Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2 were going to come out in physical media was great, and it also came basically just before the holiday season, or they were released in early December, and they ended up on the top of the DVD sales charts. So I went looking for this stuff because it's out there, and both Season 1 and Season 2 debuted near the top, in the top 5 of Blu-ray and 4K DVD sales for a couple of weeks from their release. So that obviously proved to Disney that, hey, there might be some money in this whole business. So cut to last month, and there was an announcement that happened, and this was caught by people who were watching the physical media news reporting stuff, that Disney had made a deal with Sony Pictures Home Entertainment to take over their DVD business, specifically the pressing, the packaging, the actual physical production of Blu-ray and 4K UHD physical discs. This was seen as good news by people in that industry, because the gist is that Sony is really good at it. They've got it down to a science. Disney doesn't have it down to a science in the same way, and so it would work out a lot better for Disney and for people who want more Disney movies, not just Disney movies, but Marvel and Star Wars and Pixar and all of that stuff. But interestingly, somehow Sony isn't just going to be handling the production of these physical discs. They're also going to be involved in the decision making for what discs are going to be released and when, which is kind of fascinating. I don't think they have final cut per se. I can't imagine how Disney would agree to a scenario like that. And that brings us to yesterday, where less than a month after word gets out about this deal that Disney and Sony have struck, that we get the announcement that Andor Season 1 and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series are coming to Blu-ray and 4K UHD. Now, in the world that we live in these days, it's kind of hard to imagine going back to a physical media situation, and yet, when you see how these different, media companies are treating their streaming services and they're pulling titles off of the services left and right, and this happened with Lucasfilm and Willow, for example, it does kind of make you want to pick and choose maybe and consider, well, yeah, I might want to keep a few physical things, especially as a Star Wars fan. I have to say, one of the things that I particularly cherish and am glad that I kept is the DVDs of the original trilogy that also have the non-special edition versions of the movies on them. And I think despite the fact that, if you look at stories about DVD sales globally and Blu-ray sales and 4K, blah, blah, blah sales, the trend overall is down. Like, most people are, buying less and less physical media. However, I think there's definitely a spot for niches, however you want to say it, like Star Wars fans who would actually appreciate it and will want to own it. In fact, one of the most watched videos on our YouTube channel is one of the videos where I was speculating about the possibility of season 1 of The Mandalorian ever being released on physical media. There's been such a desire for it. It was fantastic to see it finally fulfilled at the end of last year. And now it seems like the floodgates are going to start opening and we're going to start getting more Star Wars stuff on physical media. So we're looking forward to season 3 of The Mandalorian and the Ahsoka series and everything else. And hey, while we're at it, let's get Star Wars Resistance and the last season of the Clone Wars and so many other awesome things that we could have on physical media. Yeah, I'm all for it. And also, one of the things that you may have heard me talk about from time to time, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, is how much I have been waiting for a Disney Gallery situation related to Andor. Well, there's going to be a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff in the season 1 Andor set, and so I'm very excited about that. So I'd love to know from you, what are you excited for coming out on Blu-ray or 4K UHD as far as Star Wars stories go? If you're seeing this on YouTube, comments are right there. Spotify has a Q&A section, just drop your A right there. And if you're catching this anywhere else, just go to sw7x7.com and drop a comment at the blog post for this show's episode. So that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. If you enjoy the show and you think more people should have this daily dose of Star Wars joy in their lives, there are 3 very easy ways that you can help make that possible. One is by leaving a rating or review on your favorite app if you haven't done that already. Another is by hitting the subscribe or the join or the like or the follow button, whatever your app calls it, if you haven't done that already. And a third is to just tell other Star Wars fans that you know that this daily dose of Star Wars joy exists for them. And you can also help support the creation and production of this labor of love. It is just a one-man operation here. I handle everything. You can do that over at patreon.com/SW7x7. The 7s are numbers in there, not letters, just in case it matters. SW7x7. And it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyrighted by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.